This week on the Financial Freeman podcast, we go inside our third HMO project. We will discuss why we picked it in the first place, how it's going, and how we hope it's going to go in the future.
But more importantly, those that are seeing on video and not just listening on Spotify, you may notice this hairy bulge here and a hairy bulge there. But he's 36 years old and this one's 12 days old. This is baby Charlie, who's a girl, and our newest addition to the podcast.
So yes, our HMO is in Swinton. Why did we pick Swinton? Do you remember?
And we've always liked Swinton.
We've always liked Swinton. So Swinton is in Greater Manchester, for those who are not familiar with the area, and we've been sort of hot on Manchester and Greater Manchester, well, basically since we started investing in property almost about 3-4 years ago.
They always have to be within driving distance of our home, so I can keep an eye on them.
Yeah, so that's a huge kind of reason, and we just think there's a lot of growth in the area. There's a good sort of commuter town to Manchester city centre, which is obviously a key kind of hub for anyone working, and it's got its own sort of shopping centre, which do you like? You kind of quite like?
It's got its own shopping. It's got some shops, which a shopping centre. Oh, it's got big supermarkets, lots of big supermarkets, and lots of big shops like Matalan and B&M, and then kind of in need of upgrading area with cheaper charity shops, and
it's fine. It passes.
There, and you can get you get everything. You don't need to go out the area to get anything you need.
And I think the key for us anyway was the actual house that we kind of found, in that its location.
And it's by a train station.
I was going to say its location within Swinton itself was very, very central. So 2-minute walk, 3-minute walk to the train station. Literally 2 houses, away from a coffee shop.
Very close to. One next door to a little cafe.
Yeah, next door. Next to a supermarket, 2 minutes walk from a supermarket.
A bit more, but yeah.
So it's literally kind of within distance of everything that.
And then the train station's very close. Very quick journey to town.
That's what I've said. So it's in the commuter belt, yeah. So it kind of ticks all the boxes in terms of good location for an HMO. Now it might be very different, just to make it clear, for a single let. When I say single let, that might just be one sort of family unit. They may not need or want to be so close to the centre where the house is on.
Generally HMOs don't always have cars.
This is what I'm about to say. So generally the house is it's on a main road, so that might put off, say, a young family with kids. They may want kind of a bigger garden. They may want to be slightly off the beaten track in sort of a more of a suburby kind of road, whereas the main kind of criteria for an HMO is probably different to that. It's probably being very close to the centre, being close to everything, and convenience really is the number one. So that was the location. We were very happy with that. The actual property itself also kind of fitted the bill. Now, Ronnie, you did a video right at the start when we learned to look for it, and we have actually changed plans since then. We'll go into that in a bit, but I think the main thing to note was that the property was a good size. It probably feels a bit obvious to say this, but if you're going to fit in 5-6 plus rooms, you don't want a small pokey house. Now,
it's generally the old Victorian houses that fit the criteria the best.
So quite a few people do try and literally squeeze in as many rooms as they can into a smaller house, but you can tell really.
Well, potential tenants go in and think it's a bit pokey, and
just doesn't.
The rent's a bit lower if the rooms are smaller, and they're generally harder to. Everyone wants a big, spacious living place.
So I think you can still do them up nicely, and people have done it, but ultimately, I think in the long run, it's just a bit risky, I think. And I think the other thing is that I've always got in the back of my mind is that what it would look like as a house still. So if you're squeezing in all these small rooms, then no one's ever going to want that as a kind of in the future if it was no longer going to be an HMO. And
if
who
HMOs
knows
become extinct,
exactly who knows how the market's going to be. Now at the moment there's sort of growing demand for HMOs, but it could, I don't know what's going to happen in 15, 20 years time, and suddenly you might have to think, right, what happens if all HMOs suddenly get banned for some reason, or something daft like that, and therefore how
something
easy
daft like coronavirus.
Yeah, although we're okay with that because everything's got its own suites and everyone's got their own rooms, so it's kind of, I guess, fairly coronavirus friendly. Although we have had
we've had to isolate twice
now. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of you've got to think about what it would still look like as a house, which is why we kind of go for the bigger size. And when I say bigger, I'm kind of looking at about 150 square meters is kind of the ideal for us at the moment, and we should be able to get 6 rooms into that. That's the plan. 6 ensuite rooms plus 1 big living space, which is sort of lounge, kitchen, diner, all rolled into one. So that's kind of what we look for.
And we try and shy away from single rooms because they are harder to let. No one wants a single room, so we try and get them above 10 square metres each bedroom.
So we found this house that kind of ticked all those boxes: big ceilings,
high ceilings,
a yard which was fine, a small garden, but not like
I wouldn't say it's a yard.
No,
it's more of a little garden.
But not, you don't need kind of a huge
but like
garden.
Somewhere to have
just
a
somewhere
smoke and
is ideal.
Sit if it's
Exactly.
Sunny.
So it kind of ticked all the boxes. The market at the time was crazy because we bought this in the end in September of last year, but we were kind of doing all the bidding in sort of April to May of last year. So this is kind of when I think everyone had suddenly woken up to the fact that prices hadn't crashed and they wanted bigger spaces. So we were kind of, I guess, almost a year into the virus, and so the initial panic where prices originally kind of did actually sort of go down a bit had well gone, and everyone had cottoned on to the fact that actually they wanted somewhere nice. And so it was really even boom time at that moment, and there was kind of a flurry of people viewing this property, and the price was kind of going up and up. It was on the market for 175, and I knew we were never going to get it for sort of that price, but I think we viewed it and sort of spoke to our investors straight away and agreed to, I think, to put in a bid, I think was slightly above the ask, maybe that day or the day after, just to sort of test the waters, even though I knew it wasn't going to be sort of successful. I just kind of wanted to say, look, we're not messing about, and we were a cash buyer, which obviously helps us a lot. So we put that bid in, and I think I remember coming back to us saying almost the day after, saying, look, that's good, it's a really good start, but there's at least like 8 other bids in or something ridiculous. Like, I was like, right, because we hadn't brought a property before that for about a year. So even though I knew the market was kind of red hot, this was the first time I'd ever had it whereby
we'd bidded and we'd seen it on red hot before.
We'd been bidding, but we hadn't quite sort of realised what was actually happening. I think we were just kind of a bit more like, right. And it was heard a lot anecdotally, but I think this was the first time where we were bidding for ourselves, for a property, and the price was clearly going to be nowhere near the asking price. Now, bearing in mind 2 years before that, we'd been kind of putting cheeky bids for stuff.
We'd never paid an asking price for anything.
No, and we've been asking, like, sometimes, depending on the property, I've been saying like 20% below, and I was saying things like Brexit, or, I was coming up with all sorts just to kind of justify a low bid. Whereas here I was like, right, well, I just, you don't even mess around with it, you just throw in a number, and it's not, there's no sort of, there wasn't that much science to it. We kind of discussed it with the investors because the agent had come back to us and said, well, yeah, I'll let you know how kind of the next stage. But she said it's likely to eventually go to closed bids. So I think there was one more round where we'd gone up to, it was on for 175. I think our second bid was at about 178, 179, I kind of remember. Again, I remember thinking, right, that's not going to be the winner, but I knew it was kind of probably going to go to closed bids. So I thought, well, let's just kind of stay in the lead. And we were doing it at that point, because the agent sort of tells you, even though they can't kind of tell you any numbers, they kind of give you the wink and the nudge, to the extent Ronnie was a bit jealous, I think. And,
no, he does. Paige,
that's right. And our investors.
I like Paige.
I like
making
Paige.
a giggle.
She was good. So you've got to build up a rapport, because it's kind of, she's got to believe you're serious and funny and good looking as well. But
she's not seen you. I no pictures.
Well, now she has. Yeah, she hadn't at that point. But it's
that voice, that smooth voice.
That's it. So it wasn't. This wasn't
what wooed me.
So this wasn't really negotiation. So as I said, in the past, 2 years ago, I was kind of still trying to build up a relationship, but a lot was me trying to put forward my view as to why I thought it should be lower. So, but my tactic, I guess, had changed. So now it was about me. Not wooing the agent, but me trying to get across that we were serious buyers and we were willing to kind of go along with the process. And we realised that it was a buoyant market. We're not daft. We're not trying to no longer get a bargain, but clearly we don't want to overpay. So can she just give it to us and sort of? I mean, I was asking her, can we just finish this process? What's it going to take? And she kind of said, well, no, unfortunately, it's going to go down to this closed bids. So that's where we were, and we had a call with our investors, and I guess what we were saying, we'd kind of come up with figures that the cost of the work was going to be, and roughly at that time, we thought...
We'd had the build-around.
I don't think we had the build-around, but I think through our experience, I guess we'd worked out roughly what the cost was going to be.
There wasn't time to get the build.
There wasn't time, and we didn't know exactly.
Quote takes a few days,
and we also didn't know exactly what we'd be doing with the property. So the figures are difficult at that stage. When you remember, we
didn't know what we'd be doing because
there was
we didn't know if we get planning for extra rooms and
how much sort of loft conversion might be and basement conversion. So you are kind of shooting in the dark a bit, but you've just got to be offering a sum that, at the time, we knew we'd be able to make it into a 6-bed. So we worked out what the end value of a 6-bed might look like. And basically, off the back of that, what we can afford and the possible cost of getting it to that stage, what we can afford to pay. And it also really went down to what the market was looking like at that time. So I was looking around Swinton. As it happens, we were kind of sourcing a property also in Swinton for somebody else at the time. So I could see that they were kind of going, like they say, like hotcakes. And I was like, right, we need to bid high. Now, I think there was originally, we were discussing sort of bidding in the 200s.
That was me.
That was, Ronnie was like, we need this, we want this. And this is kind of the way she acts with every property. And I think I was a bit more like, well, we just don't want to be overpaying, because at the end of the day, we've got investors, we've got to protect their interests. And when it comes down to finally finishing this project, which would probably have been about a year from when we were first talking about the numbers, we've got to be able to justify it. And ultimately, if they've got lots of money left in the project after we refinance, then they might be a bit grumpy. They might be like, well, actually, it all goes back to the fact that we overpaid in the first place. So yes, you want the property, but also it's got to work on the numbers. So you're kind of doing all this, and it's half guesswork and half working it all out what it's going to be and sort of gut feel. And we came up with 195,500. So asking price of 175. As I said, our bid before that was, I think it was about 179, and that was sort of in the lead. So it's a big jump, but we only had one shot at it. I was fairly confident at that price that we would get it. And even if we weren't the highest bid, A, because we were a cash buyer, and B, because I'd flirted with Paige, I was kind of fairly
sobbing,
fairly confident that we were going to be there or thereabouts.
Paige attractive?
She might be listening, so I don't. Well, first of all, I mean, I care more about the soul and the kind of person she is. And second of all, I don't even look at. Second of all, I didn't ask. Second of all, I don't kind of look at women at all in that way anymore, or maybe I didn't to begin with. Anyway, so those two reasons, I was fairly confident that we were going to be successful. And lo and behold, I got the call back the next day, and Paige says, well, that's it, we're in. And the buying process was fairly smooth after that. We had, well,
the exciting bit. You're going to get to the exciting bit.
Well, go on.
When you picked up the keys, she told you.
So this was where
the runner-up bid.
So we bid 195,500, and she said the runner-up bid was, I think, about 1,000 less than us, and I think they were also a cash buyer. So we were very close. You know, neck and neck. She said, yeah, it was a really good bid, yours, and you know, that was kind of, it was a really big relief, because even at that stage, if she'd have told me it was 10 grand theirs was 10 grand less, then, which was possible because obviously we didn't know, then suddenly we would have been had to sort of go back to the investor and say, oh, sorry, you know, we've overpaid by £10,000 here. That's not kind of what you want to be doing. So there's a lot of pressure. So I was very relieved at that point, because we basically bid the perfect sum. And it also bode well for kind of the end value, because clearly the market was at that level. So even though the prices at that point necessarily hadn't justified bidding that much, it was clear that, I guess in 3 months' time or whatever, when the land registry data had sort of been released for, you know, our purchase and all the others in the area, then it was only going up. So then when we revalued in 9 months' time, that was going to be the new value. I'm conscious that we've kind of rattled on for quite a bit, and we've got a longer time to go, and there's quite a lot more we want to discuss in this project. So we'll leave it there for now, and I think we'll make it into a part 2, where we discuss kind of the layout, issues we had in terms of planning, and we'll discuss whether we were successful or not, and how we then coped with it, and sort of some of the numbers around this, because obviously we've told you the input price, but then we kind of want to discuss how much it's all going to cost, and what the end value might look like. So I think we'll save those treats for part 2. So please tune back in next week, and you can do your little. Well, actually, we're giving 0 advice this time. Well, maybe we have given a bit. You can do your spiel.
Advice.
Do you want to do your spiel?
Don't follow our advice.
Well, yeah, I don't think we've given any advice, but bid high as you can was sort of the only advice we gave. But
the content of this podcast is for general information purposes and not a recommendation to act. Please contact us or an independent financial advisor if you would like to discuss further. Contact us at gary.financialfreeman@gmail.com.
Bye for now.
Bye.